stream, pairing. What happened last time is while this waiting screen was on, I was actually already live. So if I'm already live, hey, what's up? Hey, brothers, great to have you. And we are live now. So, men, welcome. Jason here. We are kicking off tonight with our masterclass on resilience. So you men, if you are watching in the Facebook group in the Primal Council, are watching the roundtable. The roundtable is a high performance men's mastermind for the men who have gone through the PATH program. If you'd like to hear more about that, we'll drop a link into the comments. But tonight isn't about us. Tonight is about a brother from our community who is a man who's been through a lot of our work and has come out the other side with an incredible set of lessons and also a set of skills to offer to the world. And Darren runs a program called SCTN. SCTN is a business that's purpose is to build resilience through adversity. Darren will be talking more about what that means. But the reason why we're running this masterclass and the reason why I'm such a big supporter of Darren's work is that the principles inside of Darren's programs tap into something that are very aligned with what we believe in Primal. And that is, we used to live in a very, very different way to the way we live today. And the results of that are showing up for men everywhere. Darren's work taps into and accesses some of the peak performance states that men and teams can achieve when they use resilience as a tool to build, when they use adversity as a tool to build resilience. So that's the reason why it's so congruent with Primal, is that it actually taps into a deep, instinctive and evolved element of humanity. We used to live in a very, very adverse environment. We would have been in the past much, much more resilient than what we are. Agreed? Fair to say? I think that's a fairly common and a well-held belief in our community. So why Darren? He's got a skill set and an experience that I think very, very few people could claim to have. He's been through things and continues to put himself into a level of adversity that very few people are accustomed to. And it teaches him things about the way that the mind works, teaches him things about the way that humans can operate in a way that has them performing at a higher level. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our brother, Darren Herford, SCTN. Thank you, brother. Take it over.
Thanks, mate. Men, welcome to this. I'm just going to set up so I can see my face. There we go. Yeah, welcome to this masterclass. Appreciate you being here. And look, you've all come along because you are obviously interested in not only bettering yourself, but learning something specific about yourself with regards to your strengths, potential weaknesses, and generally your resilience. Everybody who is in Primal, particularly in the roundtable here, is interested in leveling up. And as Jason said, what I do and have made a career out of for a long, long time now, even outside of SCTN, is helping people to build themselves up. What I do with SCTN is effectively help people build resilience through adversity. My staff and myself, as you can see on the slide here, we create a container that simulates the most realistic military experience based on Special Forces selection courses that I would argue exists in this country. The reason we do that is to help people see, for one, what is not working for them and how easy it is to actually overcome that. Now, I say easy, it's physically very demanding, but I look at my life sometimes in black and white, and it is quite liberating. All I need to do is move from here to there, and it is difficult. The decision to move from here to there is still very much easy. So what we do with SCTN is actually go through that process with people through that lens and that realm of the military experience. So tonight, what we're going to do, men, is learn about a few things. We're going to learn the 3 key tenets used by the world's highest performing military teams. And to be specific, what I'm speaking to is the 2nd Commando Regiment based here in Sydney, in Australia, and the SASR, Special Air Service Regiment, based over in Perth, also in Australia. Now, these 2 units are recognized worldwide for their prowess in the military and tactical space for their lethality and for their exceptionally low casualty rate as well. The US has had over 10,000 casualties, well over 10,000 casualties in the war in Afghanistan. Australia has had 41. So we have a zero tolerance policy on casualties, and that is evident in the training that we provide to our soldiers. Now, what I'll do now is I'll get into my story so you guys can learn a little bit about me and what I'm about and where I've come from and why I do what I do. So, I enlisted in 2013 under what's called the direct entry recruitment scheme, where the Army takes about 20 civvies every year to fast track them through to commando selection. So we do basic training, we do infantry school, and then we do a preparation program that prepares us for selection. And then we get launched into the selection course. I underwent commando selection in 2014 for the first time. I came off that selection course injured, was posted up here to the 6th Battalion Infantry Regiment in Brisbane, and then went for commando selection again in 2016. I was unfortunately removed from commando selection about 2 days before the end due to what's called a board of studies. So basically what they do is every few days they cull the bottom 5% of the crew, of the participants, because there is 170 candidates that line up and there are about 35 spots on the actual training cycle. So they need to cull people who unfortunately aren't making the grade. In 2016, that was me. My number was up, unfortunately. I went back to the 6th Battalion and I did what we call reload, re-aim, refire. I basically refocused on what I wanted for my purpose. And I came to the decision that I really, really fucking loved that job and I really, really wanted to do it. So for a third time, I lined up for Special Forces selection. And this time I decided to go for SASR in 2018. Now, I prepared myself for the course, got on the course, and then about 4 days in, I decided that it was no longer for me. I liked a whole lot of the cool stuff. Everybody likes kicking indoors and jumping out of helicopters, but some of the other stuff I wasn't too keen on, and decided to pull myself off the course. 12 months later, I was discharged from the Army medically. And then what I did was I kind of took pause at the end of all of that. I had a look at my life and I sort of said, okay, what are the lessons that I've learned out of being in that environment for so long? And I did the maths and I worked out that I had been training for and surrounding myself with all things selection and special forces for 25% of my career. That's a solid 18 months of training and investigating and being around those people and being in and amongst everything that they live, breathe, and do as much as I possibly could for 25%, so a quarter of my career was dedicated to trying to get into special forces. I was very fortunate to be around those men who make up the highest performing military teams in the world. I spent just on 8 months at Holsworthy Barracks, which is where 2 Commando is based. And I was very fortunate again to be able to mingle with the operators who were there. They were teaching our courses, and being around them and seeing their attitude, their ethos, and just generally the way that they lived, was incredibly inspiring, and it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about how they go about life, and it provided me with a model of how to structure my own life at that time, and I really started to recognize the common traits among high-performing individuals. So tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that some of these secrets that I've learned, some of these common traits, and I've boiled them down. I've distilled them into a very potent 90-minute masterclass that we've got here, and with 3 main tenets, which I'll get into in the next couple of slides, and 9 core principles from those 3 key tenets. Now, I've taken all this and I've put it into a very simple framework, again, that will be demonstrated to you men here tonight. So a little bit of groundwork first. We've got some common things in any high-performing team environment. And what I've learned is at the core of every high-performing team, there are high-performing individuals. Now, the inclusion of these things indicates a successful high-performing team as well as high-performing individuals. However, the absence of these things causes a breakdown in high-performing teams. Again, as you'll see that in the next slide. Now, a high-performing team cannot exist without high-performing individuals. It is just not possible. And you see this all the time with football teams or sporting teams. You see this particularly with military teams. You even see this in relationships with families. If there is one person who may not necessarily be pulling their weight, or they don't meet these core tenets and these core principles, that team is not able to perform to the highest standard. Now, with special operations or even regular conventional forces, so the infantry, if there is a weak link or a hole in the boat, as we like to say, then quite simply that team can't do their job. Now, the reason that this is all different, and I'm going to bring a little bit of, well, section energy, as Jason likes to call it. I've done a fair bit of men's work, compared to some other people. I've been to sort of the depths of my soul, the dark night of the soul, so to speak. Now, there's no disrespect to other men's work activities. I come from a few different places that have had some incredible life-changing breakthroughs for. But with what I do and what we at Section do, there is a level of adversity that is necessary to show up core behaviors. Now, this adversity happens at the very edge of what you think is possible for yourself and what you think is possible for not only an individual, but a team to achieve. Now, I learned these lessons over a 6-year career in the military through the shittiest of shitty circumstances, the suckiest of suck, and the hardest shit that you can probably do legally that this country and arguably the world has to offer with regards to physically and mentally testing people. There is learning, and then there is experience. And what we offer with Section and what I have experienced is just these things. I have learned things the hard way. And what I do with Section is to try and distill all of that into a very short and compressed amount of time, so people don't have to spend 6 years in the military failing and then bringing themselves back up to go again. Now, a high level of compression is necessary, not just regular stress, but really, really turning the screws and putting people through the ringer. It takes a certain level of compression to truly expose your character blueprint. Now, through many individual and now team reps in running Section, I've been able to critically assess what is necessary to create high-performing individuals and a process that helps identify those pieces that are missing for individuals and what it takes to remedy those gaps as well. So why are we here? Why is this all useful? We're all here to become high-performing men, I would argue. So I'll jump my screen back up and let's just get a show of hands. Who's here because they want to be a high-performing individual, high-performing man? Yeah. Who here feels that there's some gaps in how they're living, where they could turn the screws a little bit and increase their performance? Great. Who's currently actively working on it? Great. So not everyone, and that's okay. So it's one thing to learn, it's another thing to experience. And this is what I was saying before. If you could accelerate the identification of where those gaps are and how you could learn those lessons in a very short space of time to then be able to go back into the world and apply those lessons, I argue that that is something that would be incredibly powerful to everyone. Would you men agree? Hands up if you'd agree. Of course. So what we found is that people who have come through our system and have been assessed against our framework and have been shown where their gaps are and then given the tools to actually be able to fill in those gaps have learned more about themselves in 14 hours than they have in days, weeks, or months of other courses that they might have done, whether it be men's work or retreats or anything like that. And that is absolutely true for myself as well. I learned more about myself in 3 selection courses than I have in 10, 15, 20 years of just existing in life. What it showed me were the darkest parts of myself, the voices in my head that I didn't even know existed that came up literally in the middle of the night. And what I've also seen is the incredible triumph that I'm able to achieve, the things that I can set my mind to and through sheer force of will And the tenets that I'll show you guys after this, I'm able to actually get through, and the obstacles I'm able to overcome. I'm now really fortunate that I get to work with a group of men who are all of the same ilk and the same mentality, and we get to now deliver that to other people as well. As you can see here on the last part of the slide, adversity is the unique ingredient. Learning is one thing. However, being in the suck is absolutely necessary. I was chatting to Jason about this before. We are living a long way from our original design. Now, what that might mean, and this is what they do on SAS selection, is if you don't make fire, you go cold. If you can't make a shelter, then you get rained on and you don't sleep. If you don't know what food to hunt for in terms of berries or how to skin an animal or any of that sort of stuff, you don't eat. And that's just you. So adversity is the unique ingredient to force us to be able to overcome and actually live a life that is closer to our design, and then take that into the modern world to go back out into the world and become successful in anything that we choose to do for ourselves. So without further ado, I will move into the next slide and I will show you the 3 tenets that we have here to live a high-performing life. So the 3 tenets we have are resilience, teamwork, and leadership. As you can see here, that there are 3 key principles under each of the main tenets. And what I've done with this Venn diagram is I've shown you, men, what it is to be without all 3, because it's not good enough just to have 2. These are the 3 things that make up high-performing individuals, which then go on to make up high-performing teams. So we'll think broad strokes for the moment. We'll look at resilience, teamwork, and leadership. With resilience and teamwork, a high-performing individual with only resilience and teamwork, you can't be a high-performing individual, because what that makes you is a sheep. So you might be tough and strong and mentally resilient. You also might have teamwork. You work in a team. You're able to mingle with other people and think about others before yourself. But without leadership, you're just a follower. You're a very strong, motivated follower, which is why we put sheep there between resilience and teamwork. Now, on the flip side of that, if you've got resilience and leadership, so you're a tough, motivated guy, you've got leadership, you are a leader, perhaps you lead a team, you're a leader in your relationship. However, you don't have that teamwork, then you're a lone wolf. So again, you're a strong, motivated guy, you've got leadership capability, but you're doing it all on your own. And what we've found from our work is that a lot of A-type personalities will have this. They'll be resilient, they'll be strong, they'll be tough, and they'll be the leader. They'll say, hey, everyone, come with me, we're doing this. And they'll want to take on the entire load themselves. And that's not sustainable. We have teams for a reason. It's to share the load and achieve more than we possibly can as individuals. And down the bottom, we've got teamwork and leadership. So you might have great leadership qualities, be able to lead a team, stay calm under pressure, and all the things associated with that. You might also be able to work in a team, have a great other mentality, be focusing on other people, be able to communicate and actively deploy assets, all the different things that make up great teamwork. However, without resilience, you're a quitter. You don't have the ability to stay the course. You don't have the ability to continue on after failure. We've also seen this in our program as well, is we'll have fantastic leaders who are really good at motivating their team, but they come up against a little bit of failure and they crumble and they're unable to then motivate the team, motivate themselves. And ultimately that doesn't get people across the line. So guys, I want to get honest with you guys, and I want you guys to be honest with not only me, but yourself. And what I want you to do is, if you've got somewhere to write something down or even jot it in your phone, what I want you to do is get real. And I want you to score yourself on a traffic light system with these 3 tenets. So there's resilience, teamwork, and leadership are the 3 tenets. And what I want you to do is score yourself as a red, amber, or a green. Okay. So red is basically not present. So I am not resilient, I'm not a leader, or I don't really have the capacity to work in a team. Amber is that capacity needs work, and green is you are consistently performing in those capabilities to the best of your ability. So I want you guys to do that now, write that down, pop it in the chat even. Let's do that actually. That'll be really good. Let's see. Yep. Cool. Thanks, Jace.
While the other men are putting theirs in, do you mind if I jump in here real quick?
Yeah, please, mate.
Yeah, I've done a fair bit of personal development work in different kinds of flavors and forms, and I was really surprised how quickly I was able to be shown up in the experience that you created on the 14-hour event on Assault. And yeah, just wanted to share here that language that you used before of I learned more about myself in 14 hours. That was something that I shared with you. And as a medicine, adversity is unique. Adversity showed me that I was leading and that I was happy to work with the team. But as soon as I was given the experience of failure over and over and over again, my victimhood showed up, and I felt the injustice and the story of how I was being hard done by. And I can see it so clearly in the light of day afterwards. But at the time, I had no idea how deep that went. So yeah, that was where my opportunity was in dealing with that, particularly the acceptance piece. And I'm sure you'll dive into it later. But yeah, I just want to give a share around the reasons for my amber in teamwork and leadership.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. Beautiful. Yeah, cool. Leonidas. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, in all three of them always. So we got a comment from, can I read the name out? I can, yeah. Sweet. So comment from the Facebook group, Bradley Chapman. Thanks for dialing in, Brad. I feel like I would score myself quite well in all three. However, I'm always looking to improve in all aspects of work and life. I think you can never be the best at any of these. So amber, all for me. Right. Interesting. That's really good. Okay. So I want to share a story about that actually, which is it's a Navy SEALs story. And what they do on selection courses, and it's pretty common among selection courses, both here and in the States, and the Brits do it, I know, on their SAS selection as well, is they have what's called Rate Your Mates. So I think the US call it like a self-assessment or a team assessment or something. Basically what you do is you have a space to be able to say, right, who do you feel is performing well? Who do you feel should stay? Who do you feel should go? Now, about halfway through the course, when everyone's had a chance to sort of see each other, these BUDS candidates, BUDS is the training program and the selection for SEALs, would score other people. So they'd be like, oh yeah, I think number 36 should go, and I think number 58 should stay. What they found that with the remaining men, the men who were there standing at the end and who were selected, they got them to do one last assessment of themselves and of their team. And they say, right, who do you think should go? And each one of these men said, I should be the one to go because everybody else here is incredibly strong and I'm the only one letting the team down. Now, that wasn't the case. Ultimately, all these men got selected, but what it showed was a shift in mentality from these guys to go, right, I'm now going to be a team member and I'm going to demonstrate that I feel everybody else in this team is working together and I feel that I am not performing. So they had this really big mentality shift. And again, ultimately they all got selected anyway. But it was because of that sort of humble teamwork focused attitude, that other mentality really got them all across the line and helped unify them as a team. So yeah, thanks for that, Brad. That's really interesting that you say that. All right. So man, we'll get into the first tenet. So what we're going to be focusing more directly on tonight is resilience. And we are going to be diving into the nitty-gritty of resilience and the three key principles under resilience. So we will do that now. So the first principle under the first tenet being resilience is acceptance. Now, this is acceptance of what is. And a quote that can basically sum that up is, "This is where I am." So what is this? What is acceptance about? Acceptance is basically being okay with what's in front of me. So this is where I am, and I'm not focusing on the emotion of not being where I want to be. This is where I am through whatever circumstances, through whatever means, through whatever perceived injustice or wrongdoing or good, bad situation or otherwise. This is me now. Here I am. Acceptance is also about what can I do? So rather than going, this is where I am and that's just it, and sitting down, what can I do in this situation? What am I physically able to do right now? So one of my old team leaders went on selection about a year before me for 2 Commando. And when I chatted to him about 6 months afterwards, after he'd healed and recovered, he said, I asked him what they did on selection. I said, was there anything that was just like that really like what was the first shock? And he said, well, for one of the first PT sessions they did, and these PT sessions would typically last anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on the time of day and the heat and a whole bunch of other factors. He said what they did was a few BFAs. Now, BFA is a basic fitness assessment. So it consists of anywhere from 40 to 60 push-ups, about 100 sit-ups, a certain amount of pull-ups, and then a 2.4 kilometer run in around about 10 to 12 minutes, depending on your age. So all in all, it's around about 30 to 45 minutes worth of work once everyone gets through it. He said, yeah, we did a few of those. I said, what do you mean a few of those? And he said, well, the PTI, the physical training instructor, he came out and he gave himself the introduction. G'day, my name's Corporal so-and-so. Today, what we're going to be doing is conducting a BFA. So let's do a warm-up. And they did about a 10-minute warm-up. And he says, right now we're going to get into the push-ups. And then they did the push-ups, and then they did the sit-ups, and they did the pull-ups, and then they did the run. And it was about 40 minutes. And then he said, right, I wait here for further instructions. And he disappeared off into the ether. Everyone sat around waiting, got their drinks. Anyway, then the PTI comes back out. He says, evening, gentlemen, my name's Corporal so-and-so. What we're going to do is conduct a BFA. Now we're going to get into a warm-up. He goes through the same warm-up again. And he goes, right now we're going to conduct the push-ups. And they go through the push-ups and the sit-ups and the heaves and then the 2.4K run. He says, righto, men, sit down, wait here for further instruction. He disappears again. He comes back. Evening, gentlemen, my name's Corporal so-and-so. What we're going to be doing tonight is conducting a BFA. And I said, righto, Stan, I get it, mate. They're taking the piss. He goes, we did this 7 times. I'm like, wow, okay. He's like, yeah, we ran over 15 Ks in that evening alone. We were at this for probably close to about 5 hours, and they stretched it out because it wasn't overly arduous. But after about 3 of these, some of these guys started to really break mentally. Physically, it wasn't all that hard, but they could tell from their body language. They started just doing these ones, just a bit of again, they started after probably about 4 or 5 is when the guys started to actually pull themselves off. Now, again, this wasn't overly arduous work, but what Stan noticed was the guys who were just like, all right, yeah, cool. I guess we're just doing this then again and again and again. Those were the guys that just stuck it out. And those were the guys ultimately that were there at the end, because they had this acceptance of, okay, this is what we're doing. And it doesn't really matter what else is coming along. I'm here now. This is the problem that's in front of me. And this is what I'm going to address. On 2 Commando selection in 2016, we had a 3-day navigation exercise. And among other things, in terms of the distance of the navigation, what we had to do by night, and this was from 10 o'clock at night to about 6 a.m. the next morning, or however long it took us, was we had to do what's called a road move. So effectively, we had all our shit, and I think we were carrying probably about 40 to 45 kilos all up. They basically said, right, open your map. You are here. Now you have to go to here. If you want to quit, crack a blue Siloom and sit to the side of the road. We'll come and get you. Other than that, nav starts tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Get there when you get there. Go. The first night we did 24 Ks overnight by road. Second night was close to about 28. And by the second night, I'd had a bad run with the nav. I wasn't doing very well. The voices had started to speak up in my head and they were getting pretty loud. And then I remembered one of my mates, when we did the pool session the night before, or 2 nights before, he started to cough and splutter a bit. So they took him out. They took him to the hospital because there's a very real risk of what's called dry land drowning when you're doing the pool session. Took him to the hospital. And then lo and behold, the next morning, probably about 10 a.m. after breakfast, he was back on the course. And everyone's like, wow, we're really glad that that Griney's back. But fuck, I could have used with like an 8-hour sleep as well. So I got this in my head that if I closed my eyes while I'm walking on this nav in the dark and I tripped over enough so that I would hurt myself and need to be taken off and strapped up, but not so much that I got removed from the course because I broke an ankle, then maybe I could get that rest as well. So sure enough, I'm walking along 45 kilos on my back. The only thing I can see is my shadow being cast from the safety vehicle in behind me, and there is not a human soul around. So I'm like, fuck it, let's just do this and see what happens. So I close my eyes for a good 15 seconds. I open my eyes and I've walked in the most perfect, straightest of fucking straight lines that I've ever walked in my entire life in the dark, carrying all that weight, right? I'm like, all right, that was a fluke. So I did it again. And this time I closed my eyes for about 20 seconds. Same again, perfect straight line, didn't go anywhere, walking straight ahead, actually sped up my pace as well. Nothing, straight line. What I learned out of that and what I said to myself was, all right, fuck it. I guess this is where I am. And in that moment, I had to accept that because the alternative was pulling the pin. The alternative was quitting. The alternative was going, fuck this. I don't really want this anymore. Crack the blue Siloom. Thank you very much. Take me off to the happy tent where I can get showered and warm and have a nice brew and a feed and we're good. But I didn't want that alternative. So I had to accept that this is where I was and this is what I was doing. What can I do in this circumstance? Okay, I'm not doing very well at nav. That's fine. We have to keep going. We have to try and find a way to make this some sort of achievable, some level of achievable. And I still hear that rumbling of that truck in my darkest thoughts as well. It's that, what was that song, Simon and Garfunkel, Hello Darkness, My Old Friend? Yeah, that was just playing over and over in my head that night as well. All right, so to wrap this up in terms of acceptance is the opposite of resistance, okay? Acceptance is just going, yes, for want of a better term, I surrender to this. This is happening, and this is what I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to be dealing with right now. If I'm fighting what I can't control, I'm fighting the wrong fight. So again, in these instances where they're doing 7 of the PT tests, if I'm going to get all butthurt and bent out of shape about, oh, we shouldn't be doing this, what the fuck's going on? We've been here for 5 hours. We're usually only here for 3. I'm not focusing on what's actually in front of me with this one. I'm not actually focusing on what I can do to actually improve my circumstances or perform at a high level and commit to being a high-performing individual. So, man, I want to check in and see what's landed with you guys for that one. So take yourselves off mute, or Jason, take them off mute if the men have something to chat about. Just let me know what's been landing for you throughout this one, guys, regarding acceptance.
This one is the biggest challenge for me, Darren, because I conflate acceptance with surrender. And I make that mean that I'm giving up. And so there's a part of me that wants to fight the system, fight the process, fight the authority, fight anything and everything I can swing at. And what I actually realize in that last sentence, if I'm fighting what I can't control, I'm fighting the wrong fight. That if you could summarize my entire experience on assault, that would be that one sentence. The fight that I needed to have was not with the selection team, was not with the drill sergeants or the staff telling me what I'd done wrong. The fight was with the knee that hurts, the back that hurts, the cow shit that I'm up to my neck in. it's the acceptance of where I am that would have allowed me to focus on the thing that was probably more productive to focus on. Big lesson for me, still learning it, still learning when I can actually make that distinction between acceptance and giving up. Big one.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I think you put it perfectly there, is that productivity. I believe productivity comes into it as well, because if you're fighting against, and I'll use you as the example, if you're fighting against that injustice and putting energy into trying to push back against the system, then you're not putting energy into actually moving yourself, or in that instance, your team forwards. And then the entire operation grinds to a halt, because it's like driving with the handbrake on. Just had a comment here from Justin McDonald. I'll read this out as well. Having been in leadership for 7 years, I found I completely suck at it. Right. Good authenticity, Justin. Resilience in adversity can work in a team very well, but I could not bring others along and join in the vision. I ended up going it alone. Yeah, and this is what we find a lot where, and there was another guy who actually a men's work coach who was on our assault in June, who was very much a lone wolf. And there was a very specific point where this guy actually kind of gave up his leadership. He was technically in the leadership position, but he just kind of threw his hands up in the air when we all sort of said, hey, man, you're the one that's up front here. You're carrying all the load, and you've got all these guys back here that are dragging ass. What are you going to do about this? This is your team. And he goes, I can't get them to work. I can't motivate them. I said, well, you need to find a way. You need to find a way. You need to find what is intrinsic to these men and motivate them to actually do this work. Now, given that in that very short compressed space of time, there wasn't enough room or space to go into that and really dive into each individual team member's intrinsic why. But it was very evident that, it was difficult for him to engage others and get their engagement. And therefore he ended up just going, oh, well, fuck it. I'm just going to go it alone, because at least I can get some of the things done rather than trying to bust my ass and, talk to people I don't really understand about. Man, any more on acceptance? Is anything landing? Has anyone got any, or what's landing rather? Has anyone got any questions regarding this as well? Does anyone see something for themselves? Either pop it in the chat or bring yourself off mute.
Glenn's got something he raised his hand before. What have you got, brother?
Yeah, I resonate with what you referred to, Jason, and I've also always had this. I used to have this mindset, and still do sometimes, of like, no, I don't want to accept that about myself, because it's like I fight against, no, I won't accept that because I'm better than that type of thing. And there's also the other side of with the rules and regulations of authority, like, for example, this afternoon I just found out I got a parking fine for parking on the road, but there's nowhere else for me to park my trailer. It's on a side street. And I'm thinking, and I got pretty pissed off at that. And I'm still struggling to accept that little aspect. It's like, I'm fighting the wrong fight. There's no point fighting it. I have to accept it. So, and there'd be things about myself where I would not accept certain things about my life and go, no, because I'm going to change it. So, yeah.
Good share, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, I found my boxing really helps with acceptance and reflecting on my experience on assault. Because in the boxing ring, there's no option. You're in there for 3 minutes, you fight or you die. I found when I was faced with, given a task, it was just like, okay, yep, this is what I'm doing. That was probably one of the easiest things for me. And there were other challenges that came up for me in that capsule. But yeah, that experience in boxing really did help me with acceptance and resilience.
Yeah, man. And I imagine if you get punched in the face, you haven't got the time or can't expend the energy on feeling butthurt about the fact that somebody slipped past your block. you, you got to keep your hands up and throw one back or stick to your plan. So again, it's that fighting what you can't control is fighting the wrong fight. Awesome. Any more, men, before I move on? Great. All righty, man. So that is the first principle of resilience. And that really is the key one. And these all build off each other. So if you haven't got acceptance, you're really unable to sort of walk through that door and really truly get into the framework of resilience. The next part is committing to the process and detaching from the outcome. So a quote that can summarize this is playing to learn. And I've got this written on my organizational whiteboard at home as well. So this comes from an interview with Kobe Bryant before he died, where the interviewer said, hey, Kobe, there's two types of ball players. There's those that love to win and there's those that hate to lose. Which one are you? And Kobe turned to him and he goes, I play to learn. That way I can never lose. So this demonstrates a growth mindset. And this principle, committing to the process and detaching from the outcome, really is about having a fixed versus a growth mindset. The fixed mindset in this says, if I don't make this, I'm a failure. If I don't get X, I can't get this thing. I need to get across the line, or I need to make this grade, or I have to get this many X or Y or things, or I have to do this activity in this time. And then what people do a lot of the time, and what I've done particularly, is they internalize that. I internalized that. So I internalized my outcome. So for 6 years, since the age of about 13, I had told myself that I was going to be a special forces operator. I was going to be a special forces soldier. And that was that. I didn't really see anything past that for my life. I didn't have a vision of my life in my 40s and my 50s. All I knew was I was going to be an operator, and that was that. The rest I'd work out in the fray. When I decided to leave that dream, that special forces dream, and say, no, I don't want this anymore, I had a full ego death. I broke down, and the first thing that escaped my lips was, who am I now? It wasn't what am I going to do or what am I? It was who am I? Because I had internalized that outcome of I am a special forces soldier and I'm going to get that. If I am not that, or I'm not going to get that, therefore I am nothing, because I'd spent over half my life at that stage working towards that goal. There was a good friend of mine, Ben, who was on my 2016 selection, and he pulled himself off after the pool session. Now the pool session for 2 Commando selection is around about 3 to 4 hours. And I have seen grown men, hardened combat veterans, break down and cry in these pool sessions. There is a certain level of fear that is brought about when one can't breathe. Now, thankfully, my dad threw me in the pool at about age 3 and said, sort it out. So I'm pretty confident and comfortable in the water. But there were men in that arena that literally would not let go of the sides. So there's a pretty big celebration amongst the candidates once we finish the pool session. It's almost like a big hump. Like, okay, cool, we've done that. Sweet, well done, guys. So we did the first sort of 2.5, 3 hours of this pool session. We got in the truck, and the truck's all blacked out and everything. Can't see anything. Everybody's in there giving each other high fives and hand shanties. Yeah, we fucking did it, boys. Well done. Good work. All that. Anyway, the truck starts off, and then it just starts taking left turns, and then left turn, and then left turn, and then left turn. Did a big square. I said, fellas, I think we're back into this. No, we did it. They're just taking us back a different route. I'm like, all right, well, yeah, cool. Good luck. Good soldiering. And then they opened up. All the DS, the directing staff were there. They said, right, get the fuck out. Let's go back in the pool. Hurry up. You've got 5 minutes. And right then and there were about 5 or 6 guys, my mate Ben included, who just went, that's it. I'm done. I'm not doing that again. He had the expectation that we do it once and that's it. Then we're done. And once that expectation was drastically shattered in the most violent and obtrusive of ways. It really rocked him. It shattered that ability for him to detach from the outcome. So he wasn't playing to learn. Obviously, in the selection environment, you're not necessarily playing to learn, but you need to have a level of adaptability in order to move on. He wasn't necessarily committed to that process. He was just going, we do it once and I'm attached to this outcome, and then that's that. Now, the ironic thing and the unfortunate thing for Ben was that when we got back in the pool, all we did was tread water and do a few pool dips on the side for around about 15, 20 minutes. And then they said, righto, get the fuck out, back on the trucks, off you go. And then that was that. And I remember seeing his face as we were all packing our gear to get back on the trucks a second time and go. And he was a broken man. And there was that look in his eyes of, holy fuck, why didn't I just stick it out? And that stuck with the rest of us on that selection course by going, okay, wow, just when we think it's gotten really hard and we don't want to do it, it could very well be over in a few minutes. And we see these men's faces and we don't want to be in that position. So let's all stick it out. An interesting statistic as well from selection is it's around the rate of attrition. So generally there will be around about a 30% success rate for people who try for selection for special forces and people who actually finish the course, get selected, and then finish the reinforcement training cycle. For men who go back a second time, there is a very limited amount of men that will do that, is around about 30% will go back for a second time. Of that 30%, their pass rate is close to 70%. So what that shows the people who are up in the think tanks up at Special Forces HQ is that there is a higher level of resilience, acceptance, and detachment from the outcome, and a committing to the process of bettering themselves and learning with those men who go back a second time, because it shows that they have a focus on wanting to be better, assimilate that information, and actually improve themselves to be the best candidate for that job that they can be. That really holds them not only in high regard, but it gives them a better ability to handle whatever is thrown at them, and therefore become or be more resilient and ultimately achieve success in that selection course. I also saw that a lot of people would withdraw themselves, and a few of my mates, I remember one of my mates, Pete was his name, he withdrew himself before selection because he was saying, oh yeah, I didn't actually, I went for a test run the other day and I wasn't actually hitting the marks on my push-ups and on my run times. So I'm just going to pull myself off. And I remember saying to him, like, why would you do that? You've still got like another 8 weeks to train. He's like, no, but the markers are here and I should be achieving this at this time and I'm not. So I'm probably not going to make the grade. So why bother trying? Again, it really showed that there was a lack of commitment to that process and there was a specific attachment to that outcome, and that outcome then got internalized with him. So I'm not going to commit to the process. I'm only going to commit to the process if I hit these markers. And if I don't hit these markers, then I'm bad and I am a failure before I even start. So why is this important? The strongest part of you is not the success that you achieve, but the ability to constantly learn from failure and commit to moving forwards. I'm sure you've all heard the stories of people like the Donald Trumps, the Richard Bransons, the Jeff Bezos, the Steve Jobs. All these people had monumental fucking failures before they had that one success. And that is a necessary ingredient to not only become resilient, but ultimately, the way I see it, to become successful. Because without feedback, without a, hey, you missed the mark here, no, you're not getting that right, you need to do this better, we have no way of improving. Now, for those of us that are lucky enough to succeed on our first go at anything, then fantastic. And I've been in that boat, and I've also been in the boat where I've had to try 2 and 3 times and then even still haven't achieved the mark or gotten the standard. But that failure is a necessary ingredient, or sorry, that's having that failure, having that adversity put upon you and having to go, okay, I'm now going to commit to the process of bettering myself, is an absolute necessary ingredient in success, the way that I see it, and from what I've seen both through my military career and career outside of the military as well. So guys, I'll reach back out again, and I want the guys in the call here to have a think about what might have resonated for you in that, and come up with some questions if there is something that you want to ask about. I'm just going to read out a couple of the questions that we've got here from Facebook land. So Jim Savage, I do acceptance well in my life. I keep moving forwards, but I want to do it, as you said, to the best of my abilities instead of just keep moving forward. And yes, I do the lone wolf very well. Yeah, thanks, Jim. So to the best of my abilities, the thing that I've learned around that is perfection is not an endpoint, or the best of my ability is not an endpoint. It's an attitude. And it seems like you kind of nailed that there. I've always had this mentality of even though I think I've done my best, there's always something, even if it's like an inch or a centimeter, that I could have done better or slightly differently. So that constant striving of, I'm going to try and not necessarily do the best, but do better than I did before, and have those small markers of improvement and ultimately success, is what I've found has worked really, really well for me. So maybe that's something that you can take on board as well, mate. Another one from Justin. Acceptance or surrender was my question too. I guess I found in some difficulties that surrender to something higher was helpful when all other options seem useless, but surrender in the sense of abandonment of our own power, trust in the group, or dedication to the task to be undertaken leaves a pretty bitter sense of failure. Yeah, look, to a degree, I agree. I think surrendering in terms of abandonment of our power, yes. But what that sounds like to me is it's looking through the lens of wanting to fight against that having no power. So I'll go back to the example of my mate Stan doing the 7 BFAs, or even Jason on assault. There was still power in those moments. So what could my friend have done on that selection course? He could have tried to improve the scores that he was getting each time they did it, because it would show them that, yeah, okay, this guy's not just surrendering and going, oh, well, we're going to fucking be here for 8 hours. It doesn't really matter whether I get 50 push-ups or 1 push-up. I'm just going to sort of throw in the towel. So there is a way to view that and have that as I'm not surrendering my power, but I'm accepting what I'm seeing in front of me here. And I think that is the key distinction. Brad, again, I feel like that's me. I play to learn. My strengths with Gallup strength training at work were learner, restorative, input, and leader. Yeah, fantastic. The Gallup model is really effective tool in seeing that as well, which is fantastic. And yeah, playing to learn is a great attitude. And look, I've had my own experience with this recently as well. Some of the things in my business weren't working out the way that I wanted to. And yeah, Jason gave me that counsel. You know, are you playing to win, or are you playing to learn? And it was a bitter pill to swallow. It really was. But what I've found is that I'm finding multiple ways to do the wrong thing before I find the right thing. So I think it was, and anyone can help me out on this. Brett, I think Brett, you said you're my Jamie for this one. Brett, if you could bring that up, who's that quote where I think it was the guy who invented the light bulb. He found 384 ways to not invent the light bulb.
Thomas Edison.
There you go. That's the one. Yeah. So with regards to that playing to learn, yeah, recently I've had a lot of experiences in finding not the best way to do things. But ultimately every no leads closer and closer towards a yes. Justin, my father was in 22nd construction, did SAS training in the 70s. Back in the bad old days. Nice. He described being given boiled chook to eat with the feathers still in place. Who would eat it? Psychological and physical challenges are pretty surprising in terms of the unusual effects they can have in the heat of the situation. Mate, I agree. One of my other mates, Mick, was on selection, and I actually experienced this as well on the pre-selection course that I did. My mate Mick went for SAS selection, and during Lucky Dip, which is the last 4 days of the course. It's like no food, no sleep, just carrying stuff. And then they'll get them to do this incredible amount of physical work. And then they'll put them down on the ground and say, right now you're in an ambush. You have to wait here for the enemy. And they'll just leave them alone for 3 hours and see who falls asleep. I remember that when they were all sitting around, they were digging with their spoons, digging a hole. And then a fresh rotation of directing staff came in, and then they started unbagging like these cooked chickens. And these guys haven't eaten in like 3 days, and they'd take one bite of a bit of chicken, then just like throw the rest in the dirt, just like, it's disgusting. So yeah, there's no real purpose other than just it's a bit of a funny story. But yeah, to back up what you were saying, Justin, where they'd be eating chooks with the feathers in place. Yeah, these guys will do it. Thank you for that quote, Brett. Cool. All right, man. Any more on commitment to the process?
Leonidas is going to comment there.
Yeah. Leonidas.
Hey, brother. I really resonated with that story when you kind of lost your identity in your purpose or your mission, or the amount of time that you put into something. I did too with a career. Took a different swing. I felt like I never really achieved my full potential. My question to you, brother, is I'm still challenged with resilience in whether you call it a fear of failure or fear of winning. I'm still yet to work that one out. But the question is, how do you keep pursuing when I suppose those past thoughts are coming up about, unworthiness or fear that it's going to go again the same way, if that makes sense to that question.
Yeah, man. And I'll be totally honest with you, brother. Those fears are still present with me. Yeah. And it is, I won't say that it's a daily battle, because it's absolutely not, but yeah, they pop up, and sometimes they pop up when I least expect it. And what I've found is really dialing in on not only my discipline, but my resilience, and just going, yeah, all right, this is where you're at. This is, and acceptance is not just about, the doing and the situation. It's about the feeling as well. Just like, yep, all right, yeah, I feel shit about this. Yeah, I feel like an imposter, or I am scared that this is going to go the same way or worse, or fucking the world is going to implode. Yeah, okay. This is how I feel. And then do it anyway. And that's really, I won't say that's the key, but that's what helps me, is just acknowledging those feelings. There's actually a psychological study on this where people actually voiced their fears, and it actually changes, or basically the part of your brain that registers that fear actually, it loses its potency effectively. So by acknowledging those fears, rather than trying to shut your eyes and like push them away, acknowledging those fears and then proceeding with the task that you have at hand anyway, I've found for me really works. Do it scared, but do it. Yeah, guys, there's a lot of this stuff that is really, it seems almost oversimplified and black and white, but I've really adopted this kind of black and white mentality. And it's really fucking liberating. It's like, do I need to do this thing? Yes. Am I scared? Yes. Okay, cool. Like, go do that. Do I want to get in a fucking ice bath every morning? Do I want to go and squat until I feel like I'm going to shit myself? No, but like, it's scary. It's fucking terrifying, but I have to do it. Yeah. There's something in there that is just like, this is the task that is before me. I accept this. I take this on board. I'm committed to this process, irrespective of the outcome. So I have to move forwards and do this. So yeah, brother, happy to talk more with you about this.
Beautiful. Do it anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother.
Do it scared, do it tired, do it cold, do it hungry, but fucking do it.
Yeah, legend. Cheers.
Yeah. All right, guys, any more? All right. So the third and final principle of resilience is go again. This can be really simplified with the saying, one more step. Failure is not final. Okay. Failure is not an end point. Failure is feedback. And this is how I look at failure or missing the mark or not making the grade or whatever way you want to jazz it up. This is how I look at that in my life now. I just look at it as data points. My weight on the scales, the weight that I lift in the gym. I was in the gym today. I've been trying to hit a certain number on my squat for 2 weeks, and I got in there today and it was 5 kilos less. I'm like, all right, well, this is where I am. This is what's here in front of me. I'm committed to this process. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to go again. I'm just going to continue to do this because this is the task that's in front of me. I remember chatting to a friend of mine, Sam is her name, after I came off my 2016 selection. So this is the selection where I was removed because I wasn't making the grade. And I said to her, yeah, look, I came off this course. I'm really bummed out about it. I always told myself I wasn't going to pull myself off a course. I was going to let the people who know better pull me off. And sure enough, they did. And her response was, oh, well, maybe it's just not for you. And I had this visceral reaction to this and an absolute refusal to believe that things are just for some people and not for others. This concept of failure is not final. It's like, oh, well, you failed, cut and run, try again, and there's been a lot of talk the last sort of few years around seeing that particularly in a younger generation where they have no resilience or they have less resilience, where they try one thing, it doesn't work out, and then they move. They want the quick fix. They want the 7 easy steps to become a millionaire by the time you're 25. And this perfect morning routine will get you $10 billion by lunchtime. It's not a piece where you can find a quick fix. You have to go through the reps. And in order to go through the reps, you have to experience failure and you have to keep going. You have to crack on. You have to take one more step. This is the action step. This is the part where it's the culmination of the previous 2 points. So to really cultivate resilience, there has to be an acceptance piece. There has to, you have to accept that there has been I had to accept that there has been a failure, or I missed the mark. I didn't make the grade on something. I then had to have commitment to that process. Right. Here's the feedback I've gotten. I'm going to learn from this. And I'm going to improve myself for the next time that I'm still committed to going for this goal. I'm now going to go again, despite failure, despite the voices in my head, despite the external voices, the people telling me that I've already fucked it up twice. I'm absolutely going to fuck it up a third time. You're not going to make it. I had to go again because of all those things that I'd done previous that have built on that. Despite those failed attempts, I'm still committed to this, and I do not see failure as final. This is the bit where we actually pull the trigger. Who resonates with this? Has anyone got any questions around this one?
I can see how it's sequential, 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
And I'm okay with the go again. I'm not too bad at the commitment to the process, but it's the acceptance. So I'm resentful in the first instance. I'm somewhat attached to the outcome, somewhat attached to the process. And then, okay, I'll do the work. But I realize that the work is a lot harder when I haven't met the first 2 pieces. Correct. So it's like, I got to get 1, 2, 3, got to accept first, got to be committed to the process second, and then I've got to be happy to go again. And the happier to go again will come a lot easier if the first 2 pieces are in place.
Yeah. And look, I would even argue you don't have to be happy about it. You just have to be there. Acceptance is not about it's not about changing your mind around like, oh yeah, I'm glad that I'm doing 8 of these fitness assessments, or I'm glad that I did this or have to do that. It's just data. Again, it's just, yeah, this is it. This is what's in front of me right now. It's like, it's raining. Oh yeah, it is. Like, that's it. I remember going on the one-day spear, Jace, the first one that I went on, and Ed, I believe it was, gotten the water, and something that I gave to him was something that I, again, still experience to this day and did throughout my army career, which was something I say to myself, like when it's cold, it's like, yeah, okay, be cold. If the water is cold, then just be cold. Just accept that. You don't have to like it, but fighting against it is not going to do anything. It is by definition purposeless. So just be cold, be in that situation. Without that, again, it is very hard. So acceptance of what is and where you are. And then from there, as you said, Jace, committing to that process and detaching from the outcome. Okay, this is where I am. I've gotten rid of all my attachment to my outcome, and I've got a new set of circumstances, and this is where I am, and I'm going to learn from this. Then going into, all right, now I'm going to go again, because those previous notions of oh, I don't want to be here, and but I really wanted this outcome back there, are all gone. So now you can go, okay, now I'm going to continue to move forwards. And ultimately that's what that is all about. Resilience is about moving forwards after failure and doing the hard thing over and over and over again. Anything coming up for anyone in that little piece for them, guys? Nothing yet. All right, guys. Sorry, Jace, did you say something? No, never mind. All right. So what I'll move on to next are the other two principles, the other two key tenets for high-performing individuals and high-performing teams, being teamwork and leadership. Now, I'm just going to gloss over these, guys, because obviously, we've really done a deep dive into resilience, because I saw that would be most beneficial for the masses. So we'll launch into teamwork now. So the three key principles in teamwork are the other mentality, and this is summarized in what can I do for the team. The second principle is communication. So there has to be a passage of information that is passed both up and down the chain. So particularly for those who are in business, there is a level of communication that is necessary both up and down the chain to become a high-performing team. There is also trust. There is a saying from the Navy SEALs, which is, I trust a man with my life, but do I trust him with my money and my wife? That is what I've distilled from my lessons and my life and my experiences into the framework for what creates the teamwork tenet in high-performing individuals and high-performing teams. With regards to leadership, the key principles in that are SA, so situational awareness. This can be summarized with head on a swivel. So being able to actually assimilate and discern information around you to be able to make effective decisions. Decisiveness. Again, the saying that I say all the time, the only bad decision is indecision. And if our brother Wade decides to watch this, he is going to remember the lesson that he got on assault regarding that. The only bad decision is indecision. The final the final principle of the leadership tenet is deployment of assets. So using the right tool for the right job. This was very evident in standard conventional forces where they would not do that, but is an absolute linchpin of high-performing teams, particularly in special operations. They don't give the guy who's 50 kilos wringing wet the heavy machine gun. They give the guy who looks like Ben Robert Smith and who's 6'7" and jacked like a motherfucker. Yeah, let's give him the gun because he's going to be able to deploy it effectively. So each one of these works in accordance with the next one. So you must have situational awareness in order to be decisive, and you must be decisive in order to be able to deploy your assets at the right time in the right circumstances. So these all feed off each other. Any questions just very briefly around any of those, teamwork or leadership?
I'm just realizing how universal those three pieces of leadership are. And I could see Leon having a nod because I'm just thinking about myself as a leader in my business. I need to have the data in order to make a decision, which is to deploy what resources are going to be the most effective return on investment in my business.
Yeah.
So this head on a swivel applies for me, reporting, knowing my numbers, getting into my business data, not actually being of this bullshit story that someone else will figure it out. No, I need to fucking figure it out. And this is this leadership of actually head on a swivel. I'm realizing is actually my what's the word? My head in the numbers, my detail in the data.
Yeah.
Like know my situational awareness so that I can make a good decision. That man, this is gold. This is really powerful. Yeah, I really like this.
It also can be something like, so for instance, whenever I'm planning my events, I'm checking what's on either side of it. So this year, what I did was I planned my events either the week before or the first weekend of the school holidays. Because if I plan them smack bang in the middle of school holidays, the A-type personalities or the high-performing men that I want on my course, I'm away with the kids, or I'm busy, I can't leave my wife with the kids, or whatever it is. So there has to be a level of situational awareness with regards to that in terms of specifically what I'm doing, to be able to then go, okay, right, this is the date that I'm going to put it on. I've got my situational awareness. This is the date I'm going to put it on. And then from here, now I can deploy these assets to do marketing or to do organizational or whatever it might be. But again, it flows into each other. You've got to have SA to then be decisive and then deploy the right assets. Absolutely. Any questions, man? Is there anything more that someone wants to chat about? Something's come up for them?
Can you go back one step, Darren, just to the teamwork? I can imagine there's actually a fair bit underneath each of these as well.
Yeah, there is. So where are we? There we go. Yeah, so each of these again has some very key learnings in all of these. So the other mentality, again, they flow sequentially. So the other mentality, what can I do for the team? There has to be a mindset of how can I help somebody else do their job once I've done my job to enhance overall team success. That then feeds into communication. So how can I communicate what I've done or what we've done or what's actually going on, whether it be to each other or to higher up, so a decision can be made regarding that. And then there's the trust factor, which is, okay, I trust that this person is going to communicate whatever is going on. I also trust that this person is going to work for the team and they've got their own shit sorted in order to be able to actually be deployed in the team properly and achieve success with the team, both in their individual role as well as a part of the team. And then, yeah, again, with leadership, we've already gone through that as well. So guys, I want to go into, there's one last slide. I just want to give you a very candid picture of what real resilience is like for me. Okay. It might not be what you think. For those that know me, do some pretty cool stuff in terms of I like to generally hold my feet to the fire every so often just to really sort of test myself and see where I'm at. But this next photo is, well, I'll show you. So it's not fancy. It's not me holding a weapon. It's not me, holding my breath in an ice bath or squatting 1,000,000 kilos. It's just a guy at about 5:30 in the morning with a bunch of weight on his back, walking up a fucking hill for hours. That's it. Real resilience to me is getting out there and just doing the fucking work. So this photo I took, I sent this to a mate who piked out on a pack march that morning. This was probably about, I think maybe 5 weeks before SAS selection. And this is actually at the back of the base at Enogra. Now that hill, I don't know how good the graphics are on your end, but that hill is, I can't say it's vertical, but there were times where if I stood up too straight, I would actually slide backwards. So this is the sort of terrain that I would be putting myself through in order to be able to achieve, the outcome that I needed. And I was on that hill at 4:30 a.m. that morning. That photo was taken around about 5:30, 6 o'clock. And I was going until 7:30. So I was going until my workday started. And then I would take that pack off. I would do PT with the rest of the platoon. And then I would be back out there later that night for another gym session, and then back at it the next morning. So resilience doesn't have to be this big fancy, I roll out of bed and tip into an ice bath, and then I am disciplined with my meditation or my perfect morning routine. It's just doing the work. It's just getting out there. And sometimes it is fucking boring, but it is necessary. The guys in special operations are not jumping out of helicopters day one. They are literally doing 150 reps, loading and reloading their weapons, so that when it's out on the battlefield, they can do that in under 2 seconds. And that's the level that I got to as well. It was, I could draw a blank in my weapon, or have what's called a stoppage, because there was no more rounds in the magazine, move offline, empty the magazine, put a new one in, reload, re-aim, refire, and hit within the target area in under 2 seconds, because that was what was required of us. But the way we got there was literally just doing the boring reps over and over and over again, walking up the hill. Brad, we have another comment from Brad. I would love to empower my team to build my skill set to be able to continue my work when I'm away. Yeah, absolutely, man. And empowering your team as a principle of leadership is absolutely vital, because, as you said, when you go away, you don't want the wheels to fall off. So Brad, there would probably be room for us to chat offline around that, mate. So what we'll do is we're going to, Jace, I believe we're going to pop a link in soon, so that you guys can reach out and we can have more of a chat about what I do and what we do, and how all of this can help you. Leonidas, any quick tips for helping kids build resilience? Yeah, look, I don't have kids, but I know what I would have wanted my father to show me. And that was compassion, but that I could do it anyway, because I had to learn those lessons for myself, by myself. So I would have really loved for him to say, hey, mate, I get that this is really hard. This is really shit, but you can do it, and you've just got to push on. And I know it sounds simple, and it sounds a bit like airy fairy given the context of what we're talking about, but I would have really wanted that from my dad. But instead I had to go through 3 selections and a spinal surgery before the age of 33 to learn it. So
that's beautiful. Beautiful words. Thank you, mate.
No worries.
Can I jump in there? And Darren, this is an acknowledgement to you, brother, because Darren has recently been generous enough to offer to train my son, Micah, who he's a big lad. He's carrying a fair bit of weight, and he's not got a huge amount of personal confidence. He loves his video games, loves his indoor time, and I've been working really hard to try and get him to build that resilience. And we now train 3 days a week with Mr. Herford himself, which is a fucking absolute privilege and a pleasure. And what I've learned is that my son will do what I do, not what I say. So when I demonstrate the resilience and I get up at 6 and I go to training and we do that as the repetitions, that resilience I've noticed now for him, there's no resistance when we get up in the morning, because it's just what we do. There's no debate about it. It's not a here or there about whether we're training with Darren. We're just training. So it's the being an example, and it's the putting in the consistent reps that I've found has helped Micah now be pretty resilient and pretty fucking strong, to be honest. He's doing well in the gym. So yeah, that's my piece. And thank you, Herford, for being a big part of that, brother. Thank you, man.
My pleasure, man. It's been incredible to watch him. Watch him grow. It's been great. Jim and Justin, appreciate that, guys. We will again, we'll drop a link here. You guys can get in touch, and we'll have more of a chat around that offline. So yeah, appreciate it.
Just out of information for those brothers who are watching and are interested to hear more about what you
Yes.
do on the assault, when is your next one?
Next course is 4th of November.
Okay, awesome.
So what I will do is I will put that link in there now. This is in the chat.
If you chuck it here in the chat for
Yep.
reaching out with you, Brett will then put that into the group for men who want to have a chat with you about what you're doing. And even just, I'm assuming, and I'm not wanting to speak for you, but if men want to talk about how they can implement these things in their lives, but also implement them in their works, and talk to you about what you've shared here on the call, would you be open to having a chat about that?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Look, I live to serve. Like I love to be of service. That is my purpose, and everything that I've done in my life, whether it be personal training or in the military or what I'm doing now with Section, it's all about helping others. And I really fucking love it. I really do. I love people having those aha moments, On that though, there is learning and then there is experience. So I have learned all this stuff, and I have, for want of a better term, fumbled my way to success through doing all these, through having these experiences, from repeated failure after failure after failure, and learning how to pick myself up. We can sit here in this masterclass and we can read books and we can do all those sorts of things, but then there's trigger pull, okay? There's experience. There's actually having done the thing, okay? I saw something today on Instagram, is obviously where we get all our information nowadays. And it was a quote, it was a video with this British guy. I'm sure you've all seen him. I don't remember his name, Chris someone, I think. And he was
Chris
reading,
Williamson.
Yeah, that's the one. And he was saying, he was reading a poem, which is like, reading about doing the thing is not doing the thing. Asking someone how they did the thing is not doing the thing. And he went on for like a full 2 minutes. And it was absolutely perfect, because anything other than doing the thing is not doing the thing. There is a certain level of lived experience that is necessary for people to have genuine change. One of the catch cry is not the right word, but one of the sayings that I have in my business is real challenge creates real change. Okay. So there has to be this real, tangible, physical effect on the body for it to really start to actually change people's minds, directions, and everything else that goes along with it. So I urge you guys, if you are looking for real change, reach out, let's talk further, because there is real gold in this stuff.
Man, I just want to echo that. I think there's a real challenge in the way that most of us live today, which has a lot of us exposed to a lot of comfort and not a lot of adversity. I'm a massive believer in the way that Darren introduces adversity, so much so that I created it as part of our 3-day retreat. I believe in it so much, and I believe it is so missing in so many men's lives that rather than wake up in the morning and do yoga, we wake up in the morning and get fucking pummeled by Herford and his special medicine of resilience and grit and fucking gravel that's missing in a lot of men's lives. And I train alongside him 3 days a week. This is not just me talking about a man who does good work. This is me putting myself in the fire of this man's work. And I think it's missing. The warrior, the absolute fucking essence of what a warrior is to do the hard thing and to keep doing it. This man lives that life, and he creates an experience that I find has been unique compared to anything else I've seen. So if it does resonate for you, if you're feeling the call to actually pull the trigger on it, I cannot recommend it enough. And I received, just to let you know, I received nothing from Darren by advocating for what he does. So if it's your jam, look him up and go and do this thing. Because man, I learned more about myself in 14 hours than I did in fucking weeks and weeks of other courses.
Is that all it took, Leon? I'm still triggered by drums from Darren's drum.
We won't give too much away. There will be brothers watching who are going to be joining us on the 3-day spear. Brother, that is us for time. Is there anything else you want to say before you wrap up, Mr. Herford?
No, guys, look, again, thank you for being here, for watching from near and afar. Really appreciate you guys just showing up to want to better yourself. Again, everybody showed up here tonight to go, yeah, like I feel like there's something that I can learn from this and something that I can gain from it. And I hope that all of you have. But just remember, there's masterclasses and then there's experience. We don't become warriors by learning how to swing a sword from a book. We pick up the fucking sword. So if the call is there, let's get in touch. I'll show you how to swing the fucking sword.
Yes. My man. All right. Fucking love that. And on that note, if men do want to take notes from the call, if there is a desire to learn deeper and capture those essences, can we get slides from you, Darren? Is that cool? I'll arrange that.
Yeah,
if you're watching the recording of this after the live, comment below slides and we'll DM you with a copy of those so you can take some notes for the call. Honoring our brother, Darren, you're a fucking legend. When I put you on the spot to come and do a 90-minute masterclass, you said, yeah, but I hurt people by running around and doing hard things out, in the bush. What do I do? What am I doing a masterclass for? And you know what? For a man who's a duck out of water, you did a fucking great job. That was really, really powerful, really simple, really, really actionable. And I think you might have to do some more of those, man. There might be some sequels in there to teach the rest of the stuff that you've learned. So
yeah, well, look, I've got 2 more tenants to get through, don't I?
Yeah, yes, exactly. All right, brothers, for those who are watching, thank you so much for dialing in. And if you are keen to connect with Darren and his work, the links are in the chat, are in the comments below. And if whatever's resonated for you, continue to put the comments there. I'm going to hit the end to the recording. We're going to close out here in the container, and we will be. How the fuck am I going to do that? Oh shit, I'm still on the live. What am I doing? All right, 2 seconds.